Welcome to the Uncanny Women podcast, where we have honest, year-round conversations with women and gender-diverse authors and filmmakers in horror. Here, we explore the voices behind the work and how lived experience shapes the stories they tell. I'm your host, horror writer and founder of the SoCo Women in Horror Festival, KJ Brantley. Now let's step into today's conversation and meet our guest. This week, I'm joined by KJ Silverman, an award-winning author, artist, and editor. Her collection, The Blood Your Daughter, comes out on April 28th, which I'm reading right now. And also, I was lucky enough to hear her read an excerpt at her Women in Horror reading event in March. And it was just beautiful, poetic, visceral, and just really sincere. The book explores themes of female autonomy, desire, and survival in a dark fairy tale-like way. So, KJ, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you further.
I am as well. So I, as I mentioned, had a chance to hear you read an excerpt of The Blood Your Daughter, and it really stayed with me. It blew me away. It felt like such a raw portrayal of what it's like to be a mother and what a mother would do for her children, even to the point of literally becoming their food source or sustenance. So that idea of sacrifice felt so visceral to me and embodied. And was that something you set out to explore, or did it emerge as you were writing this theme of motherhood and sacrifice?
I think it emerged naturally. I can tell you a little bit more about how that particular story came about. As you know, the larger collection as a whole is couched in fairy tale as a structure, using the underpinnings of fairy tales and folklores to touch on these age-old issues that women experience even now. And the way that story came about was so strange. I'm a practitioner of yoga, and literally one day I was doing some kind of, I'm not a super good backbend practitioner, but I was attempting something where it was almost like a backbend, and I'm lifting my body up and making almost like a table shape. And then inside my head, I heard this voice: mother turns herself into a table, she turns herself into a chair. And I was like, where
That's nice.
did that come from? And so, yes, I was like, okay, we're going to play with this idea. And even though I am personally not a mother to human children, I feel like I do mother a lot of people in my life, in my world. And there's something about being a woman where people just kind of expect you to fall into that role, regardless of whether or not that is your assigned job at that given time. Suddenly, you're the snacks coordinator, you're the entertainment coordinator. And so you give a lot more than maybe the men in your social circle do in terms of the community angle.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah, I have discovered that.
Yeah, in the corporate environment, even, I've spent a lot of time there, sadly, in my past. It is so funny that I have heard it every place I've gone to, especially where there's, honestly, anywhere, but if there's a large, it's mostly white executives running it, and they'll always be, it doesn't matter if the woman is also an executive. They'll be like, oh, you have this party planned, right? Or, yeah, you're taking care of this, you're making the reservations, or just all of that. It's that common, they don't need to worry about it.
Yeah, I've noticed the men in my social circle lately have been more aware of yes, we are going to be the cooks and we are going to make the arrangements. And I'm like, yes, thank you. That's beautiful. And then in regards to that story too, and I don't, maybe this is all mothers, but it was particularly poignant in my family. My mother was an immigrant. She came over from Italy and, very much took on that role of like traditional motherhood where she literally, you really felt like she was giving up her blood for your life. And she did grapple with depression. And, when she was able to have jobs outside the house, she did. But, being an immigrant, being less economically resourced than other people, it almost does feel like there's a lot more blood that you give up. And then, not having a community in the way that maybe people who were born here did. And then when you struggle with mental illness, people don't necessarily understand that. So yeah, like I felt like my mother really sacrificed a lot of herself to raise me and my brother. And yeah, that is definitely like a theme that comes in throughout my book.
Yes. Yeah, I felt that as well with your other stories across the collection. I feel like there is that, you can see that influence even of the immigration story as well, I feel like, through that, and also obviously the themes of motherhood. And that was one of the questions I did want to ask you, was if you were a mother yourself, because it was just such I'm actually surprised because of how just you were able to, put yourself or write about that experience in such a true way. It makes me think the difference between maybe your experience, and tell me if I'm wrong, but your experience with your mother and that story that we're speaking about. And what was the name of that story again? And
that particular story was called Fold.
Fold, that's right. Fold. So I feel like in Fold, there was this almost a lack of gratitude too, in a way, from the children, almost not taking advantage. I'm trying to kind of a lack of gratitude or something, but it seems like you have a lot of gratitude for what your mother sacrificed for you. And I don't know if that was an intentional component of it, or like to show just the children's, is it just their needs needing to be met? Are they like trying to take advantage of their mother? Like, is there anything with that like came from an inspiration, or it just happened to just be how the story unfolded?
That's interesting to unpack. There's another wrinkle that I think might be helpful in this discussion, because my mother grappled with mental illness, where sometimes she would be bedbound with depression for weeks at a time, or, she started, I think, maybe earlier than we all knew, but also, had cancer, and that wasn't diagnosed for a while. And I actually became a caregiver to my younger brother pretty young. Like, my father was there, but he also had to work 2 jobs to put food on the table. And so, yeah, like I became the one who was like, all right, like do this, this, and this. And, there were times when I even was working as a teen to also help out with family expenses. And then my father became disabled, so I had 2 disabled parents. And it really felt like I became kind of the matriarch of the family, just because I was working to put food on the table while also putting myself through school, while also kind of keeping an eye on my brother and making sure everyone had clean underwear. Like, and sometimes, like, when my mother didn't feel well, like, I bathed her.
Oh yeah.
So like really deep, like I like almost became her mother when she had cancer.
Oh my gosh, that does put another like layer onto just your whole collection too. But even that of, wow, it's almost like, yeah, you are the mother in that situation, in that story.
I think it's why I haven't had it at this point, because I like, I feel like I did my tour of duty.
Yes, absolutely. I know I'm the eldest of a lot of kids, like a lot of half siblings as well, but I have much younger siblings. And while it wasn't at all as similar to what you went through, my parents were always working, and we always, a little latchkey, even though we were like a little too young maybe to, to be latchkey children, but, taking care of our kids, and especially as the eldest. And are you the eldest, you said, sibling?
I am. I only have one brother, and we're like, I think 2.5 to 3 years apart.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's a common thing I've heard from people who have experienced what you have as a child or growing up and having to support, your siblings and things, even to no fault of your parents. But I've heard that that's completely, they're like, I'm good. I don't need to have human babies now. Just gonna live get my freedom back.
You bet. Yeah. I'm not like going out and like being a crazy partier, but I'm definitely that maybe, my friends with kids aren't doing. Like, I get to spend a lot of my time writing and making art. It's my luxury.
Yeah, I know, that's so amazing. I had kids later in life, so I got to have my fun. I don't know so I have 2 toddlers now, and I'm like almost 40. Almost 38. I won't age myself too fast. But yeah, I'm not sure what's better, I'm feeling kind of like tired now. But it also does, like, I feel like I did not appreciate the freedom that I had previously to make art. You don't realize like how much, that is something that you miss. And I admire, women like Toni Morrison, who was able to like create some amazing, like, literature while, having had raised children and things like that. So
that is no joke. I've even heard from certain people who, like, once they had kids, they somehow went into some kind of hyperdrive mode where they figured out how to be like a world champion surfer or whatnot, but also raise a child. And you go, like, that's amazing. Good for you.
Yeah, exactly. I know I guess there's one thing, like, you do care maybe a little bit less about other things you found important previously. So maybe you have more brain power. I'm not sure. Or one thing is I wouldn't have wanted to actually, what would I have written about, myself, like personally. I'm like, I feel like I have much more inspiration. But so across your collection, there's also such a strong thread of female autonomy and desire, and sometimes in a way that feels like unsettling or even transgressive. What was that something you were intentionally exploring there?
It's really funny because I feel like I don't necessarily sit down and plan out the way things are going to go. I find my way through my stories really intuitively, but I definitely wanted to have my characters, for the most part, have a lot of agency, and then figure out, like, okay, what does it take to have agency in some of these situations? And sometimes they were dark. I'm not necessarily saying everyone go out in real life and, like, do
power back that way.
Yeah, don't put an arrow through anyone's heart. That's cool. Yeah, but in those wildly fantastical situations, like, what is on the table? So I guess they just kind of found themselves coming out organically. I don't know if that answers the question.
No, absolutely. And so, that is something that I think, whether you're not actually, I hope, going to go out and, put an arrow through someone's heart or do any other, the female rage thing, I think, is very cathartic for people, for readers these days. And it's also become, a very popular choice right now in literature in one way or another. So I think it's amazing because it still does have it is a way to gain your power back, or it's cathartic to read about other women, even in these fictional scenarios, gaining theirs back in these very violent or loud ways. Do you think that you have a bit of female rage inside you that you're that just came out in this collection? Because I think it must come from somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I have been in so many situations where, you know, maybe I was a hair away from being a lot more hurt. And then, you know, I had to basically be my own voice. But when I asked for help, I got the line, oh, boys will just be boys. You know, like there's a scene in All Hail the Boy King, or it's not a scene exactly, but the main character, the narrator, is talking about how she was swimming in a lake and then this horrible thing happens to her. I won't say the words aloud, but I was in a situation as a 15-year-old where I'm swimming in a lake, my cousin's there, and boys surround me. My younger female cousin, by the way, and boys surround me, and they were like, I knew they were getting ready. Like one like was
very
like
predatory.
Yeah, like started to come very close and like was physically like touching me. Like I knew, like my spidey senses were tingling. I shouted and screamed, and that was enough to scare said boy. But there was a family member, not my immediate family, but like sitting on the beach. And when I actually asked them later, I was like, I was screaming, like, why didn't you do anything? And he was like, well, yeah, boys will be boys.
Yeah.
Right. So like I was like, at 15, I knew that I narrowly avoided a very bad situation. And I just feel like things like that, just like they just keep coming up, you know, and we have to educate our men, and it hasn't happened as much as it should have, and things are still being unpacked, you know, Epstein files and this online academy that was just reported like last week.
I know, that's when
why are more men.
I know. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a whole thing too, that I was just like, yeah, it's your responsibility. That really was just like wake up call. Like it's a man's responsibility too, to talk to other men. I think I saw Robbie Dorman or something post something on Instagram, but I was like, yeah, it's your responsibility to say something as well to other men. Like you need to stand up, because this cannot be something that men just think boys can be boys. And and not obviously, because not all men are like that, but it is very complicit, I think, to not say anything when you see something kind of, or not even kind of, but something that is, in like that realm. To not say the word.
For sure.
I know. I've that's a horrible experience and terrifying. And was it a cathartic experience to put it on the page, or how did you feel bringing that lived experience into that story? Did it bring back old fears? Did it feel good to get it out there?
It's interesting because I plucked it organically, and I don't know that it felt cathartic. It just made me remember that actually this is still a risk. Like just because I am X years old, it's still that it's not still a risk. Like it still is a risk. And I was like, oh yeah, maybe I've gotten kind of like maybe relaxed about how safe my area feels. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
it's like a warning.
Yeah, I think it was almost like a reminder, like oh, this happened, and until the end of your life, like this is always a risk as a woman. So
no matter your age, it's scary.
And I don't think like when it happened, I didn't feel necessarily like traumatized, but it was eye-opening.
Right.
Because I was walking to school the next day and I was thinking about it, and then I was processing, and I was like, oh, that could have been way worse. You know?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I know it's at least in my experience, and I know many other women that I speak to, there are countless stories like that. Like those things do not just happen once or twice. in your life. There's so many that you almost don't remember, like you couldn't even remember every time something similar has happened to you. So yeah, and it's crazy too, because it has not been that long. Like when I was probably like 21, I think 21, 22, I was working at a bar, and I had previously worked at a publishing company. And some people walked in, and it was kind of like an in-between job, but I had to wear something kind of like I had to wear short shorts and a tank top for the job. They actually happened to be like in the same building as the publishing company, which is really weird. But they like come down, and this was in Boston, but a group of them come in, and then one of the guys who had always been really nice to me, I thought, was like talking to me and everything. And I was just being myself, friendly, just, okay, bye. And I think like he had my number for some reason, because he said, I think they were going to meet up later. I don't know. It's been a while. But anyway, whole night, he was like leaving me horrendous messages, just disgusting, like progressively worse. And it was mortifying. And I just remember telling someone else about it later. Like all I did was delete it. I wish I would have done more, to be honest, than I did, but it was a different time. And I remember bringing it up to someone who I thought was my friend, another man there in a different setting. And all he did was tell me, he was like, shh, don't say that. He's married. You can get him in trouble. And it was just like, and then he completely never spoke to me again. And I was just like, wow, this is crazy. So, but then you feel guilty. You're like, oh, I'm a terrible person, back then, but now I know better.
Yeah, that's patriarchy. Like it trains,
right,
women to feel like they're responsible.
Right. Yeah. It's just awful, those kinds of experiences. But I love that you're bringing things like that to light in this collection. And I also it's such a great read regardless. It's like so beautiful, so literary, so poetic. I just was so moved by your excerpt, and then what I've read so far. I'm about halfway through, so I need to finish the rest as soon as possible. I was hoping to before I talked to you, but so I apologize I wasn't able to get through all of it yet. So I'm sure I'm going to have a follow-up, but
that would be so fun.
Yes, that would be. And it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous book. And so you're also a visual artist, right?
Yes.
So do you think that like shapes the way that you think about imagery or the body in your writing? I wonder, like, even your thought of like the way your body moved in yoga into a table, and how do you think that shapes that at all?
Probably. I am very visually oriented to the point where if my environment is cluttered, like my brain shuts down. And I think that also might be part of like my whole neurodivergent scene, is like the way I process information. But yes, I am very visual. And then I think there's something too about having had Italian was my first language, and I didn't fully transition over until I was about like 4 or 5. But I can see the way it works in the way I write. Like I almost like on my first draft, I maybe over describe things because I want to make sure it sounds so beautiful. But then I have to like edit, red line. Okay, say that once, G, and not. So yeah, I think it's like all those different layers coming together. And I love when words make me swoon, like when I read another writer's writing and it just, wow, like everything about it is so well crafted, from the way it sounds to the imagery to the emotional impact. Yeah, that's what I wanted people to experience, so I paid extra attention to that. Perhaps obsessive attention, maybe. Maybe it was too much. I don't know.
I know. I relate as I'm also neurodivergent, and I feel like that's just part of the par for the course. But also just readers, and I appreciate that, but I think readers should appreciate the care that you've put into crafting those sentences. And yeah, it shows, and you're an artist. So that's beautiful. So I'm kind of curious now. I wasn't expecting to dive into process so much, but I'm actually curious, like, besides obsessing over it, what's a little tidbit on your process for how you like to go about crafting sentences so that like, this is a beautiful, well-crafted sentence. I'm proud of this.
So in terms of overall process, I don't typically start necessarily with sound. I start with whatever is the weird image or phrase that kind of pops into my head. Like I don't necessarily obsess when I am first drafting. Like my first draft is like captured in the heat of the moment. I like to capture the rawness of ideas, and also when I'm editing, also try to find ways to like preserve the heat. But I'm a ruthless cutter when it comes to line edits. I will drill into sound obsessively. Like I don't like flabby sentences at all. Like if there's anything that drains the impact of it, I am like red line, red line, red line. So
are you the type that reads your work out loud to be able to do that, or?
Yeah, I do sometimes, not always, but it's almost like I can hear it in my head once I'm going back to it. But yeah, and I think that's also a neurodivergent thing, is like if you are on any kind of spectrum wordplay, one of the little nuggets of spectrumish people.
Yeah, the lol, I can't pronounce it. I'm on the autism spectrum, but it's like but I can't even remember the name. What is it? The Lalia? Oh,
Echolalia.
Echolalia. Thank you. Yes, echolalia.
That makes my reading extra fun.
Yeah, I know, you like repeat it over and over.
Yeah, like you'll see a lot of repetition in my work, like sounds, and almost to the point where there's almost kind of like a song effect, like a call and response kind of thing. So I'm not giving it up.
I know. Yeah, don't. It's your signature. And I definitely think this is one of the books of the year, the collections of the year. So yeah, paid off, I think.
Oh my goodness. From your lips to the goddess's ears.
That's right. See, that was a beautiful phrase right there. Yeah, so that is amazing. I'm so excited for readers to get to read this when it comes out. But yeah, I wanted to dive in now. Talked about your collection a little bit. I want to talk about being a little bit more about being a woman in horror, if you don't mind. Do you feel like horror gives women a space to explore the realities of females' lived experience?
I think now more than ever it does. And I love what I'm seeing in the space right now, especially on Instagram, the way bookstagrammers are saying, I don't know why, but I'm finding myself gravitating more towards female authors. And I think that is beautiful. I don't think it's either just like a trend. Like I think it is here to stay, this, burgeoning of female voices getting published. I do think there's more room in terms of like where the budgets are, like who's getting,
good point.
The big play. So I think there's work that needs to be done there. Like if you look, I don't know, like I was messing around online like a while ago and somehow found the list of like Bram Stoker award winners from like, I don't know, the early aughts, right? And
what an interesting exercise.
Oh my God, it was like all white guys and then Joyce Carol Oates. By the way, all hail Joyce. She's the OG. Thank you, our dear mother Joyce. But yeah, like I think people are starting to realize now that part of the reason why there hasn't been societal change is because we have downplayed women's voices, and now people are hearing about it and realizing, oh no, it's actually way worse than most people thought. I think, for a long time, most people just kind of like live their life, and unless something happened to someone close to them, maybe they just kind of downplayed what is really out there. And it turns out, I don't even think we know the tip of the iceberg in terms of the abuse that's going on with women right now. Like, I think I was talking about this on another podcast, and I think it was Adam over at Horrifically Well.
Bled and Fed.
Yeah, he's awesome. They're awesome.
Yeah.
The Allens are great. And then he was like, the other shoe on the many-footed centipede of the things that we still have yet to understand about what's going on out there. And I was like, you hit the nail on the head. Like, I think we're only starting to understand what's happening. And it's a reason like why these books are coming out now. And I just think it's so important. That was my incredibly long-winded answer to you.
No, that was amazing. And that's exactly it. I think it's important work being done as well as, that's why I think it's entertaining. It's great to read a great book and a great story, but I do also think it's helping bring to light some things that, many people haven't had to face as well, which is another reason if you're shying away from books written by women authors in all genres, but in horror, then I think you're missing out on that whole experience and that female perspective that is not only interesting, but also, increases your empathy and understanding and shining a light on how big the issue still might really be and the work we need to do. So no, I completely agree with you there. So what has it been like finding the right publishing home for The Blood Your Daughter?
That is a wonderful question. I love talking about it. So it was a 3-year journey from the moment I started entertaining, getting a publisher to actually landing a publisher. So originally it was a much bigger manuscript with a different title. I was looking for an agent. I think I submitted to 30 agents who were open to short fiction. I think 5 or 6 responded. And then of that handful, only 3 wrote back to me and they said, love your writing. I don't think I can sell short fiction. And so, I was like, okay, I respect, your opinion, but also I have to do what it takes to get this out there because like, that's your belief. You don't believe you can sell it, but I believe I can sell it and I'm going to keep going. And so I took a hard look at the manuscript too and said like, okay, what do I really need to do to make this sell? And so I basically split it in half, retitled it with the advice of Joyce Carol Oates, who I'd workshopped with. And she was like, you can take this story. It was the title story. And she's like, you should wrap a collection around it and use this as the title. And so I went back to her advice. I'm like, she's the OG. She knows.
Oh, heck yeah.
So I took the darker stories that were more adult and I packed them into that manuscript, separated out another one that was more like fantasy leaning and a little younger. So those are going to become a separate book.
Okay.
But so then I went out with this and then I spent 2.5 years getting this out there. And a lot of small presses have contests through which they accept manuscripts. And over I was getting like finalists for this award, finalists for that award, finalist. 2.5 years later, I've got 8 finalist designations under my belt. And I was starting to laugh because I was like, why am I always a finalist? And
not the
yeah. And then my husband and I were like, I was like, oh, there's serial killers in this book. Oh, and we both had this like big laugh because like, yeah, girl, like, okay, like that's your answer, girlfriend. And so I needed to find the publisher who is okay with serial killers. And who better than the feminist horror publisher, Caregiver Publishing. And I just about cracked up when the offer letter came in on April Fool's Day.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you're like, would they mess with me like this? Is that?
Yeah, I thought that was super cute. Like, I'm a big believer in like signs and symbols, and like I've like,
Yeah.
just watching out for confluences. And then
Mhm.
April 1st, the best not joke that's ever happened to me.
Yeah.
One of the many.
Awesome.
One of the
Yeah.
many. Anyway, yeah,
Wow.
that was super fun. And yeah, like I love the attention to detail they had through the editorial process. Like they're really great and supportive there. And I am madly in love with my cover. It's the best cover that like I could have ever imagined. It's beautiful. I'm so happy with it.
It's perfect. It does your collection justice to it, really. I think it shows the tone and the heart of the story, and the little fairy tale. I like the ornate, they did a great job. And Creature Publishing, they are putting out some of the best work by women. Honestly, I just look at all of the books that I'm interested in reading, and I'm like, oh, they're, most of them are Creature from Creature Publishing. It's like, it's incredible. So that's really great to hear too. The in the back end, they're doing a lot of great work as well in the editorial process, and just bring your work to light. So that's amazing.
Yeah, it's exactly what I envisioned in terms of care. Like I had a very strong intentionality when I went out in the marketplace. I said, I'm only going to work with people who put out good products. So I was reading books from like almost every small press out there. But first, if they had covers that I liked, and then, researched like, what else are they doing? Are they doing this format? Are they doing that format? And yeah, I feel like, I don't know, like I've said this before, but I'm a strong believer in confluences, and I'm kind of a very woo-woo type of spiritual person, if you get what I'm saying. And so,
a little superstitious.
Yeah, I'm like, I called in the energy that I wanted, but also put myself out for it. Like I met them halfway. I'm like, here's this beautiful thing. I want someone also who respects the beautiful thing.
Yes. That's amazing. Yeah. And I do believe in that as well, the manifestation of things, but also it's kind of like that, cliche or that joke that you talk about, like God and the lottery ticket. Like if you don't buy a ticket, he's like, I want to win the lottery, but you didn't buy a ticket. But yeah, so you do have to put yourself out there, but it helps when you do all the work and the heavy lifting and create those opportunities for yourself. Congratulations. I'm so happy for you. I'm so glad it found a home and it's almost out there. Are you excited? Are you
yeah. I've had to come to grips with a lot of like my own like internal things on this journey, because this is writing that has, outside of like a few small, well-curated critique partners, this writing has largely been private. There's been a couple of pieces published outside of the collection, but again, largely a voice that I haven't shared. And so, there are fears of like, oh no, my family is gonna know what a little freak I am. And then, that's like part of the growth journey. And I'm looking at all of this as like, what are my growth edges? Like, what are the things that are hard? Like, oh yeah, that's your growth edge. And so all of this is an opportunity for growth. And yeah, I wake up honestly every day with like a sense of like peace, maybe more than I did when I first signed. Because at first I was like, those photos of the pilots that were like testing like the G-force on the planes, and then like I was like, yes, I'm so ready to put this book out. But then I was like, whoa, I need a moment, like, whoa, like process. And so like now I'm really ready. I've done a lot of internal work, and part of what's helped me honestly has been being on Bookstagram, because I'm like, I am not the only unhinged writer out there.
Yeah, I know.
It's so comforting.
Yeah, I mean, if you are hinged, then you may not quite fit into the group.
Exactly. Yeah, that it's honestly been like such a beautiful, like affirming space. I'm like, okay, I'm weird and they love me. Yay.
Yeah, I know. I love it. It's whenever I put myself out there in the community, I have like a little PTSD from the past, and then I'm like, oh no, I'm accepted here. It's amazing. Yeah, the horror community, especially on Bookstagram, is just so welcoming, and so far, so that I've seen, so supportive of women in horror, and I love to see that. Yeah, so absolutely. And that is a really vulnerable place, and I hope soon to be in your position with a book coming out. I'm about to start querying my manuscript, which I hope you get to read. But that's exciting. But yeah, I can imagine how vulnerable, or yeah, just having to process each of those steps like outside of your comfort zone. And yeah, even what is it like? Because you're promoting a book too, you have to put yourself out there in ways that may not always be so comfortable, or yeah, what you're used to. So yeah, absolutely. So I think you talked about what you're working on next. Well, no, you technically have already completed it, so you will have another collection coming out we can anticipate at some point. But is there anything else that you have started working on that you can share anything about?
Yeah, I am actually working on a third collection. Maybe this is bad for my career. Everyone's like, when are you going to write a novel? Sign you for like, whatever. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe. Never say never, but I'm working on a third collection that I would say leans more into speculative future, but also still like grounded in, it might be like a slightly futuristic version of maybe our time, but with some elements that still feel a little bit fairy tale folklore vibe. Like what happens when the old gods meet the sci-fi?
Yeah. Ooh, that
yeah.
sounds fascinating. Ooh.
So anyway, like I'm in that space, and I'm playing, and a thing I have learned with whatever I'm doing is embrace whatever is the weirdest thing that's in your head, and that's the goal. Like never shy away from like the idea that you go, oh, maybe I'm a little scared of this idea, and that's exactly the one you need to pursue.
Yeah. Because everyone's hanging on to the low hanging fruit, but if you have a wild idea, go for it, because that's probably the one. I love that. Well, I can't wait to hear more about that. I know it's just a nascent thing, but hopefully we'll get to hear about that one soon. But for now, do you mind sharing with our listeners, where they can follow and find more about you and future events and future projects coming out?
Yeah, for sure. So people can go to my website at ggsilverman.com. There's no periods in that. It's just straight up 2 G's and then Silverman. And then they can find me on Instagram. I am on Blue Sky. I'm very sporadic there. But it's either Instagram or going to my website and subscribing. I don't send newsletters out very often, so it's not going to feel like spam. Those are good ways to find me. I'm also on Facebook. I do have a Facebook author page as well. So
amazing. Great. Yes. So follow Gigi. I'll also include it in the show notes as well for the episodes. And one thing before I leave you, I like to ask this in every episode of every guest, to sort of pass it forward moment. But what's a horror book by a woman or underrepresented voice that you think our listeners need to read?
I'm super huge on short fiction, and Gwendolyn Keist just released a collection, The Haunted Houses, she calls her own. People are going to feel a vibe, like a kinship with mine. So that's a really great one. I'm going to mention a couple. Sarah Tantlinger has a book called Cyanide Constellations, and that's eco horror. And I think today is Earth Day, so it's great to pick that one up too. So I could just go on, but I I respect your time. But people can like DM me and be like, gee, yo, like, what should I read? And I'll be like, all right, here's my list.
I love that. Yeah, you heard. And ask me anything for Gigi. If you need some recs, just please call. And excuse me, these earphones just want to fall out. So I'll edit. I swear I have like small ear holes. They just don't. But thank you. Those are great recommendations. It's actually funny because I think you might be the third person, at least out of 10, who have recommended Cyanide Constellations so far. So that's one I haven't read yet, but it sounds like I need to get on it. So yeah, I will definitely add that to my TBR soon. And thank you so much, Gigi. I've really had a great time talking to you. And The Blood Your Daughter comes out April 28th, available for pre-order now. So this is absolutely one to pick up if you love literary horror and fairy tale horror at its finest. So yeah, please go pre-order, check it out, and thank you. That's all for today's episode of Uncanny Women. If you enjoyed this conversation, subscribe to catch our weekly episodes. You can also follow us at Uncanny Women Podcast and at Women in Horror Festival Co. See you next time.